What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Unshakable Strengthening Your Life and Marriage Through the Power of Perseverance. That's something that we've been wanting to share for a little bit because I know every single person in life has been through some type of pain, trauma, something, and has had to have some adversity and perseverance in their life. And what we know is a lot of people don't actually persevere long enough to develop that character that will lead to hope and get them their marriage or their life that they actually want in life. And so we felt compelled today. It's crazy how God lays things on our heart to come in and put these things to fruition. These are lessons that we've known for a long time. These are lessons that we teach to our elite level clients, CEOs, Olympic medalists, people all over the world in different things. But we also know that it can help every single type of person, whether you are a stay-at-home mom or the president of the United States, whoever it is, like it benefits. And these are the lessons that God's downloaded into our hearts through our prayers, through our experiences, through our trauma, as you're going to hear a little bit later on, a little bit of our testimony, a small little glimpse into it, of how we use these specific tools, methods, and everything to be able to change our life. But then thousands around the world as well. As you're going to notice on this call, I do majority of the talking, the leading, but I always feel so much better. This is probably going to be a bad analogy, but Diane's like, what are those dogs that you have? Like those comfort dogs that people have? What are those things called?
I don't know. I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Am I one of those?
That's what she is.
Support buddy?
Yeah, like one of those support dogs. Nah, I'm not calling you a dog, but she's an amazing, phenomenal coach. But when it comes to doing this right here, she's going to add some great value. I just tend to be the one that mainly leads, and that's what's cool about life is because we each have our own purpose and purpose on our life, and passion and talents and traits.
That's right.
Diane has hers, I have mine, and that's how we lead, and we're a great team in that way. And so, anyways, we're going to dive into this, and there's a few main things that we're going to cover, and we're going to give you some action steps, and then down below there's going to be some action steps as well for you guys to go ahead and follow to be able to get this transformation started in your life, because who doesn't want an unshakable life and marriage? You know what I'm saying? Like that's just the number one thing. And then through the power of perseverance, and it's a crazy testimony of how we got to this today, but I was reading Romans 5 last night and it was really talking about that. So go read Romans 5. It talks about perseverance develops character and character leads to hope. And so, but that's always in through our pain and our struggles. Yeah. So anyways, there's multiple things that there's like 4 main things that we need to do for this to be able to happen. I'm going to break those things down for you. I'm going to go through them all and everything. Well, for number 1, we need to use our pain for our trauma. I'm going to dissect that a little bit. I mean, our pain for good, our pain and trauma, we need to use it for good. And I promise you there's a way to do that. Everything we've been through in our life, some of the worst traumatic things you can ever experience, or the little tiny pains, we can use it all for good. So that's number 1. Using our pain for good is number 1. We need to do uncomfortable things regularly. We need to remove, number 3 is removing things from our life that are stopping us from using things for good. And then the 4th one is removing expectations from our life. And that's hard for a lot of people. I know a lot of couples especially have expectations on each other. Yes. And expectations just put pressure and let down. But when you can remove expectations from your life, there's so much freedom. Doesn't mean we're removing goals. We're just removing expectations. So let's dive into it. Number 1, when you're using your pain for good, it's an amazing type of thing. But let's be honest, you got to be comfortable doing that. So we can't just start by using our pain for good. You have to be comfortable using that, right? Well, how do you get comfortable doing that? By doing uncomfortable things regularly. You must be comfortable being uncomfortable. So I can't tell you to use your pain for good if you're not comfortable doing uncomfortable things. And so, for example, for us, we've had infidelity in our marriage 20 years ago. We weren't married at that time or even engaged. Not that that changes anything, but we've used that for good. And we'll dive into that a little bit later. But we couldn't just come out the gate and say, hey, I used to be a drug addict. I went to jail. I've cheated on Diane. And Diane couldn't say all her things and use them for good if we weren't comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
So very first, right off the gate, that's the very first step that you need to do. You need to start doing some hard things. You need to start building some courage. You need to start doing uncomfortable things regularly.
Challenge yourself.
The more you do those, the more comfortable you will get doing
Mhm.
them. And just us being on this live is a testimony to that, because I was literally the shyest kid in our high school. I didn't kiss a girl until I was out of high school. Like literally didn't talk to anybody. So how am I here years later? Blah, 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 you know? And years ago, Diane, when she became a coach, said, basically that you would never do it.
Oh gosh, yeah. No, I would never spoke even on a video.
And so to be able to do that, and like you guys can go back and watch our social media content.
Oh my gosh, our earlier content, I was a little robot standing there. People called me his puppet.
Right? Because her eyes would be like, and just barely no emotion.
Yeah.
It was so funny. It was the best.
It was bad.
But here she is later. Like you can go watch our content now, and she just kills it. She's so amazing at it. But it started by her doing uncomfortable things.
Yeah.
And so there's multiple things that we can touch on by doing those things right there. And so there's little habits, there's little things that you can do. But for you to be able to start removing uncomfortable things from your life, you know what you have to do? You have to remove things from your life. You have to remove things from your life that are holding you back from being able to do uncomfortable things, and then eventually leading you to being able to use your pain and trauma for good, right? So here's the thing, we all know this. If there's things that are whatever in our life that is causing us to stumble, they have to go. And that's different for everybody. For some people, it's porn. For some people, it's drinking. For some people, it's smoking weed or any other type of substance. For some people, it's working way too many hours and thinking that their working is for the purpose and benefit of their family, which it's not. And I tell you, I've done this long enough. I've worked with enough successful people. It's always for our significance and acceptance. Sure, it is a benefit that we get to provide for our family. There's always another reason why we are doing that. But there's something that we need to remove from our life. A lot of times it's our friends. Our friends are a big one of that we need to remove from our life. We need to ask ourselves, when we look at our friends, do they have phenomenal marriages? Are they growth driven? Are they seeking the Lord first and foremost above everything? Are they physically in shape? Are they mentally strong? If the answer is to no to most of those things, then they need to go. And not like, yo, peace out, I don't love you. But it's like,
don't spend as much time with them.
Because it's it's the 100% true. You are the sum of the 5 closest people in your life. You hang out with 9 broke people, you become the 10th. You hang out with 9 rich people, you become the 10th. You hang out with 9 people who have bad marriages, you become the 10th. It's 100% the truth. I've watched it in our lives. I've watched it in all the people's lives that we've coached. This is what we do for a living. I'm telling you, I know these things. When we replaced people in our life, I still check in with them and I love on them from a distance. And I'll be here when they're ready to get out of the ditch. And my hand will help them when they're ready for it. But when I replaced them with people who were growth driven, amazing people who wanted better in all areas of their life, we grew tremendously. When we removed things that were holding us back from our lives, other old jobs, a city that we lived, the friends, I used to smoke weed. I used to have drugs in my life. I used to have all these other things. Once you remove things that are holding you back, good things happen. But when you remove, there's now a crevice that you have to replace with good. So some of the things we need to remove is social media. Some of the things we need to remove is news. Some of the things we need to remove is just regular TV. I love sports. I've literally watched every one of the Buffalo Bills games for the past probably 20 years. This year, I've missed a couple of games. I didn't get the ticket this year. Why did I miss some games? Because I had to go to my dad's house to watch the game if I was going to watch it, which was a cool bonding time with me and him. But other than that, I don't have TV anymore. And so we got rid of things that were distracting us from becoming better. At first it seemed weird, but now we are so much closer than we'd ever be. We're so much closer with our kids. We're so much more mentally and spiritually strong. So you have to remove things from your life that will cause you to stumble. So if your marriage is having a trust issue, but yet you're still hanging out with coworkers or you're still going to the bar, those things are not going to build trust.
No.
Whatever it is that's causing you to stumble or have lack of self-worth and self-love, you need to remove those from your life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's going to be uncomfortable. But so that's why you start with small little things first. You remove the small ones. If you're an alcoholic, yes, stop drinking. But maybe you start by removing those friends. Because then when you're not around those friends, they're not going to influence you to drink because you're so used to being around specific people that drink. Or
Yeah.
maybe it's because you go to the bar to shoot pool and then that causes you to have some drinking. So you need to remove pool from your life.
Right.
Whatever it is. But you've got to start small with getting uncomfortable doing things. So that might be reading one chapter in the Bible every single day. That might be doing 30 minutes of exercise per day. That might be listening to a podcast every single day.
Mm-hmm.
That might be spending intentional quality time with your wife every single day, or husband, which most couples don't do, by the way. They spend quantity time watching TV or going to the kids' baseball games or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what they do together. So when you remove, you replace with good, because there's going to be a need. So if you remove TV and friends and then you just sitting there twiddling your thumbs, you're going to lose your mind. It'll make you be like, this isn't fun. You have to replace it, but that's going to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
With all of those things. Then you start doing harder and harder and harder things in your life. I promise you, there's so many things that matter when you do this. So when you remove the bad, you have to replace with the good. Well, there's 4 pillars that we all say that everybody needs in their life: physically, mentally, spiritual, and relational.
Mm-hmm.
So we always need to be growing physically, mentally, spiritually, and relationally. And relationship is with our spouse, but it's also with our friends. It's also loving on all of God's children. So those habits that we're removing need to be replaced with those good ones. There, I'll give you some examples below, but like I already gave you a couple there that we need to do. But you need to remove those things, because here's an example. We oftentimes want things to get better in our life, but we don't want to remove those things.
Mm-hmm.
And here's an example I always use. It's like wearing a dirty pair of underwear and then changing your underwear every day, but you're leaving the old dirty pair on and you're just putting a new pair on every day and then putting another new pair on over the top of those. Well, the old is still there. So you're still gross. You need to remove those and put new ones on. As weird of an analogy that is, that's so true in life. Until you do that, good things won't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you still have the same old habits, still doing the same old things.
But as you're removing and you're proud of yourself, because guarantee there's people in your life that are telling you like, man, are you on a diet again? Oh, reading a book tonight, huh? Not going out. Really? You can't go out? Or starting a business, huh? Sure, that's really going to work. We all have those people.
Yeah.
We had those people.
Oh
and
my goodness.
Some of those people were
our parents, our closest friends and family.
Yeah. If you have people like that, that's a big sign that they need to go. Because if we hang out with them long enough, they become a cancer, and they will tell you, you'll start hearing their voice and you will believe it.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're not hearing those voices and you're hearing positive people in your life, you'll believe the positive people.
Mm-hmm.
Or the podcast will inspire you. You'll start doing this work without those negative people chirping in your ear.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start doing these things that are building you up, you build self-confidence and self-love. The more you do good things, the more good things happen.
Yeah.
You go to bed every night knowing you did good things, and so you go to sleep as a champion and wake up as a champion. So the more you are a man or a woman of your word and you're doing these new things and not doing the old, the more confidence you build, the more momentum you build, the more identity you see yourself, the more doors open, because as the Bible says, he who can be trusted with little can be trusted with many. So how are you going to be trusted with many if you can't be trusted with little? I want to have a big business, but you can't have a big business until you can be trusted with a small business. You can't have an amazing marriage until you can be trusted with the marriage that has a little bit of fruit.
Mm-hmm.
So you start these things. So when you start building all this self-confidence, you are now ready to start facing that pain and using that pain for good. Because let's circle back a little bit. You've now are doing uncomfortable things. You've removed things from your life. that aren't serving you, they're going to cause you to stumble.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're ready to use those pain for good. There's two Bible verses that really speak on this, and they both tie together so well. And they're two of my arguably favorite Bible verses because of all the dumb things I've done in my life. And some of those things have been done by other people. But let's be real. Most of the things in our life are done by us in one way, shape, or form. Romans 8:28, God works all things together for good, is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Genesis 50:20, it says, he intended to harm you, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. He intended to harm you, the devil, but God intended it for good,
Right.
to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So trauma being used as good to save many lives. I cheat on Diane. My parents have the worst marriage in the history. Diane's parents are divorced. How is it that God took all of that when I had no example of a good marriage?
Mm-hmm.
Diane in her early years didn't. She had a good stepdad later on, but didn't have early on. Her dad's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
How did I end up cheating on Diane? And then we're industry leaders in personal development and marriage growth. That's the exact formula. God, the devil intended it for use bad, which he did through my parents' stuff.
Right.
And it ruined them because they never used it for good. We used it for good.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're saving lives. We're saving your life. Your life will be changed if you do these things.
Just as ours was.
And so I would love for you to tell a quick story about recently we were at a mastermind, and it was a high-level guy in the room, and we were talking about how, 20-something years ago I cheated on Diane.
Right.
And
you
were coaching.
He said I feel like you wear it as a badge of honor. Which
Yeah.
I do, because our lives wouldn't be the same if that hadn't happened in our lives years ago. Our lives would not be anywhere near where they are. We had to go through that hard time, that bad time, to use it for good, to change our lives in order to change other people's lives.
Yeah. And when he said that it was cool, it was in a room of a bunch of amazing people.
Yeah.
And Diane had been coaching and doing these other things and speaking. And he's like, and basically said that, but he says, most people have something like that. And it's something they can't talk about. Yeah. They want to avoid.
You're right.
They don't want to bring it up. They bury it deep down. Mm-hmm. Don't talk about it. How dare we? But Diane was wearing it as a badge of honor, as on my shirt, basically saying, I was cheated on and I'm thankful for it.
And it's true.
Right. Because we're saving lives because of it. Because I wouldn't have become the man I needed to become had I not done that. Because I needed to be kicked square in the you-know-whats to face so much pain to be able to become the person that I needed to become.
And same for me. Exact same.
She had to grow as a woman at that time, because anytime somebody's cheated on, they both have to take it. I have to take ownership for what I did, and she has to take ownership of what got it to the doorstep of there, where she was lacking.
Yeah.
Not that anybody's ever justified for getting cheated on, but there is justification of what can get it to the doorstep of it. It was the best thing that ever happened in our lives. Mm-hmm. Because I found God during that time. And when I found God, I found myself. And when I found myself, she found herself. So that verse right there is so amazing. When we do these things, it replaces negative feelings with good feelings. So you have a trauma. Let's say I went to jail, right? I'm not proud of it, but I have a story of perseverance. Let's say you were a drug addict. You have a story of perseverance. One of my best friends is one of the world's biggest substance abuse speakers. Heroin meth addict, went to prison, came out, went to the Olympics, and now is one of the biggest speakers.
Yeah.
Taking his trauma and using it for good, instead of saying, I'll never be anything because I was a heroin and meth addict and I went to prison for 3 years and all this other stuff. I'll never be anything. Now that's letting it be for bad, and what the devil intended for bad, then we're using it for good. He chose to use it for good. You can choose to use yours for good. I tell you, anything you've been through, you can use for good. Is even as bad as losing a child, as hard as that will be for me to say. Have we lost a child? No. Would I persevere through it? Good Lord, after a lot of hard pain, we would persevere.
Mm-hmm.
There's an amazing podcast on Ed Milet. If you don't know who Ed Milet, look up his podcast. And there was recently a one with I think his name is Granger Smith. He lost a child. He was a big music country star, but because of that, his son drowned. He's now saving many lives because he stopped just going on the road and doing country music, talking about partying and drinking and your dog in the truck. He became a preacher, became a pastor, became an author. And now he's changing and saving so many lives. Do you see that? The devil intended it for harm.
Right.
God intended it for good. Not that God caused it. He just will intend it for good at the after and use it for good to accomplish what's now being done, the saving of many lives. Adultery using for good. Then the other one, child dying, using it for good.
Right.
You know how many people have lost child and knew what they've gone and done? Became drug addicts. Ruins their marriages, all that stuff. And I'm telling you, the pain has to be immense. But with that being said, you are specifically chosen and have the Holy Spirit in you that can do more than you ever can imagine. I promise you there's levels to this. As you're building your confidence, you'll find out that you can go through harder pains. I promise you. What I used to think was a challenge now doesn't even bat an eyelash at.
Yeah.
Like earlier today, and I'm not saying we're not like this wealthy people. We were talking about joining a mastermind earlier today, and she was like, "Yeah, what do you think, babe?" And I was like, I don't know. I think it's gonna be about $30,000 to join this. And she's like, "Yep, are you thinking about doing it?" It wasn't like, "Babe, that's a freaking ton of money." And believe me, that's a ton of money.
Yeah.
Like literally, when we started this business, we sold our second car to invest into coaching. Still to this day, we drive one car. Multiple reasons we don't really feel we need to because we just roll together with our kids and our wife so much.
Yeah.
But is there an inconvenience? Would I like a second car? Yes. Do you think that 30 grand would buy me a second car? Yes.
But what's more important?
But so what I'm saying, it's not the money thing I'm trying to flex on here.
No.
What I'm saying is I'm so comfortable where I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about dropping 30K on this.
Whereas 300 might have been a lot of money to us a long time ago, which it is, you know.
It's a lot of money. Like it still is a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I don't bat an eyelash at 300, 600, 1,000, 30K anymore because I've stretched myself by doing uncomfortable things where now it doesn't do that. Well, who do we work with now? High-level CEOs, Olympic medalists, people like that, 9-figure earners. Some of my inner circles are Super Bowl champions. Dude, I'm just Tommy from the block. Terrible person, shyest kid in school from the smallest town in the USA. But here we are because we did uncomfortable things to get us here. And so with the last step is expectations. You can't have expectations because what's going to happen is you're going to come into this and you're going to say, okay, well, I'm going to remove these things from my life. And after 2 weeks, you're going to be like, I haven't drank in 2 weeks. I don't notice any differences. My wife's not giving me any section and I don't even know what's happening. Our marriage still sucks. Why? Because you had expectations that within 2 weeks you would see it change.
Right.
Why do you think New Year's resolutions happen? Is because people think they're going to lose 30 pounds in 2 weeks. And when they don't, they go ahead and they quit.
Yep. All over the world.
Perseverance produces character. Perseverance takes time. So when you don't have expectations, you'll learn patience, you'll learn strength, you'll learn integrity, you'll learn so much other stuff because you're just going to keep going on. You'll be considered a disciplined person that doesn't base their decisions on their feelings and emotions, and you base them on your commitments. You'll keep going. And when you do that, you'll have earned it. He who can be trusted with little can be trusted with many. That's when you get your marriage amazing. It's not going to happen overnight. And if you want it to happen overnight, you're in the wrong place. You probably want to win the lottery because it'd be much easier just to win the lottery than to make a business to earn it. You know why people go bankrupt when they win the lottery? Majority of them, because they didn't earn it. They didn't know how to do it. There's no self-worth in that.
Right.
You know why weight loss surgery doesn't really work for most people? After a while, it didn't change their inside because they didn't do it through discipline. They did it through just getting a surgery. You know why antidepressants don't work after a while? Because they don't really teach you anything about self-worth and self-love, and you don't even really need those antidepressants. But so you take a pill and you think you're feeling better, but inside you know you're somewhat feeling okay and numb just because it's a pill.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing that yourself and
Right.
being that person who you can become for God. And when you do that, you become unshakable. You become unshakable. Well, then that happens in life and in marriage. We have an amazing marriage because we're unshakable. I'm telling you, do these things, but you have to remove expectations. You have to say, God, I'm ready for if this is going to happen in 3 hours, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, or 3 years.
3 years.
I'm going to do these things. I'm going to tell you what happened in 4 years. 4 years ago, I was laying dead in a hospital. 4 years ago, COVID hit. It's almost 4 years ago, COVID hits.
Mm-hmm.
4 years ago, we decided to sell or to pick up and move right at the beginning of COVID because we said we got to get out of California. We got to move. We had zero income, two mortgages, two kids, and no money. And I was just almost dead months before that. What am I going to do? Since then, we've helped thousands of couples around the world. Since then, we've had 400 million views in the past 2 years just on our social media.
Yeah.
In the past 2 years, we've gained 400,000 followers. In the past 2 years, we've built a super successful business. But we had to burn the boats and go all in by doing this testimony. These 4 steps: getting comfortable doing uncomfortable things,
Yeah.
removing things from our life, leaving California and those old friends who were holding us back in a small town who was doing nothing for us. And it wasn't about what they were doing for us. We weren't doing nothing for them because we weren't people who could do something for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had to remove the things from our life. Old job. Diane was in a job for 19 years, same job, barely above minimum wage, stuck with limitations.
Yeah.
Me, I had gotten to a weird spot in my life where I was not a happy person, even though I had unlimited time and unlimited cash to a certain extent, which then we blew through because we were trying to find happiness and money and it didn't do it. Believe me, it will never do it.
No.
You have to find self-worth. So then we move, we have to figure this out. We had to get uncomfortable. We had to remove things from our life that didn't serve us: jobs, people, cities, states, uh, everything.
Mm-hmm.
We went all in physically. We're 40. I'm 43. She's 42. I'm in the best shape of my life. We have more sex now than we ever have in our whole life. We've been together for 24 years. We haven't argued in over 10 years. That's unshakable. How is that happening as we get older? When people say, well, as you get older, you just get fat. As you get older, you just have hormones, have less sex. No.
That's what you're allowing.
That's what you're allowing.
Yeah.
Because you haven't done these steps. You haven't gotten comfortable doing uncomfortable things, which build self-worth and confidence. You haven't removed things from your life that are causing you to stumble. You haven't taken all the hardships in your life, and everybody's got them, whether that's a father wound, a mother wound, whether that's failing at things, failing at businesses, being bankrupt, working a mediocre job, all of that hard stuff, and using it for good. And then when having no expectations that you need to have it happen in 2 weeks or 3 months. Can it happen in 3 months? Yes. Just yesterday, we had a client, and I'm saying we've worked with thousands, but I'm going to give you one who was just yesterday, who messaged me and he said, man, my wife just initiated for the first time in 3 years. I don't work with his wife. I just work with him one-on-one. My wife just initiated for the first time in 3 years. He's been with us for 3 months. His discipline's gone through the worst with Ruth. He sees himself differently. His family's growing. Everything's happening because he's doing these steps. Sure, there's a bunch of other stuff when you work one-on-one with this. We take your life and we mold it specifically for you. But these steps work. Stop letting your pain be your downfall. Start letting your pain be your purpose. Mm-hmm. Start using your pain for power. Mm-hmm. As the Bible says in Romans 5, perseverance equals character. Well, here's something. What's in our heart becomes our thoughts become our words become our actions become our habits, our habits become our character, and our character is us. So how do you get that to happen? Trace it back. You gotta change your heart. You never change your heart unless you remove things. You
Yeah.
never change your heart unless you do uncomfortable things. You never change your heart if you have expectations, setting yourself up for letdowns. You gotta go. You're so chosen. Go read Ephesians 1 about you being chosen. You have a specific purpose on your life. Diane does. I do. Every single person on this
Yes.
earth does. Follow these steps and do it. I promise you, there's so much waiting for you. I promise you. I was today at the gym, I was almost in tears, and I don't cry. And that's not because I think people who cry are weak. I just think my tear ducts are broke.
You're just not an emotional
I'm
person
not.
like that.
But I was sitting there and I had just got a message from another client, and it was just such a cool moment. I was looking around this gym, and like we go to the most amazing gym, and it's just in this most amazing part of town. And I was just looking around like, I can't believe this is my life. Not because of the gym, but that's part of it, but because of like, there's my wife and son working out across the way. I've got so many amazing clients. And not only do I got clients, I'm changing their lives. I've changed my life. And I was like, I can't believe it. In 4 years' time, what can you get done? And I'm not saying it's going to take you 4 years, because I felt really good last year,
Yeah.
the year before that,
Right.
but I'm not at this level. It's only going to get better because I'm going to keep using these things. I keep removing things from my life. I keep doing more and more uncomfortable things.
Mm-hmm.
I keep removing expectations.
That's how we just get better.
And I just have use all of our pain for more and more good. And that same thing's waiting for you. Use these things. Do them. If you're interested in working one-on-one with us, there's that for you. If you're not ready for that, by all means, just use this system for yourself.
Yeah.
There'll be action steps below. Do them. They're amazing. If you don't think you can afford to work one-on-one with us, and I'm going to tell you it's not cheap, nor should you want it to be. It's exclusive for a reason.
Right.
If you can't do that, we have a digital course you can go through, and that's a lot more affordable. We have a high-level mastermind where we meet 6 times a year, twice monthly on a Zoom call, and you're surrounded by a bunch of other high-level people, and that's extremely exclusive. We cap that at 10 people,
Right.
and that's almost full right now because we're just doing this next year's season. Whatever you're looking for, we have that help for you. Can point you in the right direction. And if none of that's for you, go check out our podcast, High Level Husband. It's on Spotify. It's on YouTube under our YouTube channel, Tommy and Diane.
Yeah. Just don't do nothing.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Don't listen to this and be like, man, I can't do it.
Yeah.
It seems overwhelming, but I promise you it's not. Promise you that. You just got to go. That meme that says, if you just do this every single day for the next year, your life will change. That is this.
Exactly.
The only reason I know that is because we did it.
Right.
We had no choice. Like I said, 2 mortgages, no income, and 2 kids. And in the middle, we moved to the city that had the #1 unemployment rate during COVID. What are we going to do? We had no backup plan.
Yeah.
We created a business with the talents and traits that God gave us. We created a business with the pain from our youth, from our early years, that allowed us to be in this spot. You can do the same for whatever that is on yours. I promise you. It's one of my favorite things to do for people is have them find their identity, find their purpose. There's ways to monetize that. At the end of the day, you don't need monetization. You just need the love. So, love you guys. Remember the second commandment in the Bible. It's love your neighbor as you love yourself. Keyword, as you love yourself. Can't love your spouse till you really love yourself.
Yeah.
Remove those things. Remove expectations. Do uncomfortable things. You'll start loving yourself. You'll see your pain differently and use it for good. You'll love yourself. And next thing you know, your marriage will be like nothing else. I love you guys. God bless you.
Bye.